So as we look to the holidays, and if it's like kind of a wham bam thing because we've got Halloween was big, lots of sugar there, and then there's the anticipation of the other holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas break. Some kids are like they're doing virtual school now, and so then they're like transitioning to and from school every day and then out of school for break. It's just a lot of change happening right now. And so what are some things that we as parents of kids with neurodiversity should consider as we're looking toward the holidays?
Wow, that's a big one. As we're looking towards the holidays, I mean, there's so much change going on now. The more that we can minimize change for them or possibly front load is really helpful. For us, being prepared is huge. If we know what we have going on and we can communicate that to our kids with neurodiversity, that helps them so that when the change comes, it's not so abrupt, so that maybe they can process it a little bit. They may take more time to process it, but by the time that happens, they're kind of ready for that change. That's one of the things that they definitely need. Any front loading of information, knowing your child, of course, how long that timeline is, like, do I tell them this amount of time ahead or not? But front loading is really an important tool for them.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we can't say anything prior to like arriving in the parking lot. That's our situation. I'm like, and we're doing this thing, and
Yep.
And it's happening right this second, and so that way we don't have too much anxiety. But
Right.
yes, that's a great point. And I watched your course, and another great point that you made was prepping for family visits, because I think that's something so often our home life is like such the norm for us. Like I've never parented a neurotypical kid, so I like kind of forget what like houses that don't need to accommodate a whole bunch of stuff for life. So as we go into a time when we may be spending time with family, although COVID, please be safe,
Right.
what does it look like to prepare us, to prepare our kids, to prepare the family? What kind of things should we think about going into those kind of circumstances?
Well, some of the things to prepare ourselves, I mean, one of the things I write, if we write it down, it's going to help us, because there's so much happening. It's so easy to lose a detail. Mm-hmm. So if we can write that down, that's really helpful. Going into communication with family is huge. And every family dynamic is different. Every holiday tradition is different on how they celebrate and what holiday they're celebrating. But communication with family members is huge. And one of the big things for me is, hey, I may have to show up late based on what's happening and what's going on with my children. And you know what? Based on what's happening, we may have to leave early. If the activity is maybe too noisy or too, busy, decorations are, that can be someone with impulse control and, oh, shiny. That can be really hard, oh, I want to play with that really fancy thing there. That's, some heirloom, and that's going to be a trigger, So communicating with the family is huge. In what the boundaries are for our kids. And for us, less is best is how I say it. As minimalistic as we can be has less of an impact and less of a negative impact on our kids.
Yeah, well, you were talking, it made me think of in an accommodation we have used before also, which was, even though we were going to visit family and there was room in the family's house, we stayed at a hotel because it was just too much to be there all the time.
Yes.
You have to weigh it because it's also a transition, but it just gave us a place to go and for things to be quiet, because a lot of times like everybody's cramming in together, and so it can get a lot noisier than maybe they're used to. Or even if it's the same level of noise, it's just new noise and they're a lot more on alert than we are, I find. So the family visit aspect is difficult because there are so many dynamics at play, like you described. And I think a lot of times when we're parenting from a brain-based parenting perspective, it looks to the average outsider that we're coddling needs or we're going above and beyond. And we're like, you don't even understand if these accommodations are not met. no one's having fun today.
Right.
So there's a lot of stress. So I think planning ahead is great because then it's, we're talking with the family, prepping them for what it's going to look like. And it doesn't matter if they agree with it or not. At least they've seen it ahead of time. And it's not like in the moment they're like, oh, why would you, whatever it is. I don't know.
Right. Right. And it's funny because sometimes I think back to when I had infants. When you're a parent of a small child, you bring that diaper bag, with all the things that you need, like you bring the whole house, right? And sometimes even with our neurodiverse children, we have to bring the familiar. We have to bring something that they can, distract themselves. And sometimes that means it's okay if, little Johnny decides to remove himself from the room. That's okay. We don't need, let them have their quiet space, let them go in their quiet corner and do something familiar before they can re-engage. And another thing I've learned for us, we have this tradition at Thanksgiving where we play bunco after dinner. None of this sitting around watching a game or anything. We're like, nope, we're going to do something. Okay. And it's been a family tradition forever, and it can get really noisy. It's a very lively game. We've been teaching the little ones how to do it, but with games, there's winners and losers, right? And my girls don't understand that concept. So we have participation prizes so that they end up leaving with something. So you have participated and you did a great job. Here's a thing of bubbles, to play with or something, that they still feel included. So the winning, losing aspect that us adults can handle, they don't have to worry about that. They just get to play. And if it's too loud, they can walk away or use their noise canceling headphones, or whatever needs to happen happens. And we just roll with it, literally.
So that's such a great point. And I feel like that could be a tough one for family that's not used to it, because there's like this idea that everything that we're doing right now, we're giving participation trophies out and kids won't know how to lose. And we have to recognize that there's an extra level of empathy that we need to bring to the table when we're parenting kids with neurodiversity, that they don't have. This is not like a life skill that they're just going to learn by experience. And so how do we help them? The biggest skill that they can walk away from us with is regulation strategies. And so if we put them in situations where they're constantly deregulated, then we're not giving them that core piece. So I wouldn't have thought of that. That's not a big thing for us, but that is a good idea, but also definitely something that you would want to explain ahead of time. Maybe something like, I want to make sure that everybody's having fun. And I know for my kids in particular, losing games can be really hard, but the goal is that they play with us so that we as a family can have fun together. And so I want to acknowledge that they're playing with us and that we're having fun and that they're being kind and respectful. And so therefore they will be getting these toys or whatever afterwards.
Exactly. And like you said, communication is the key, and yes, we can look like we're coddling and we can look like that, but that's okay.
Yeah.
We have to be okay. We're okay with that, right? We're totally okay with that, because regulation is key. We did not have a massive meltdown or rager today. We are in good space, and I think that's ultimately the goal, is to have that peaceful time with family and making those accommodations. And when you prepare ahead of time and you can think of with this plan, what can go wrong, what can go great, and when you prepare for all of it, then you're going to be, as a parent, we're going to be, I'm ready for that, boom. And you've got you're calmer, and they feed off of that too. And that's going to help with making
that's a good point too. Because if you go in thinking, oh, this is all going to be perfect, and then it isn't, then you're not like emotionally prepared for it not being perfect. And so then you're more likely to react from like a reactive space instead of like, I prepared for this. I know that there are options. I have fidgets. We know how to go outside of the room and take a reset, all of those kind of tools that you need.
Right.
So that being said, you have a course that is published on our website called Help for the Holidays. And I think I made a subtitle, When the Holidays Aren't So Joyful, because some of us are like, great, Christmas, I'm so excited. And you give people tips on how to prepare, like you're talking about, plan ahead. And I think that's really, I think even maybe you get into that moment, maybe, a couple weeks from now, people are like, oh my gosh, it's happening. Or like post Thanksgiving, they'll be like, and I remember why I hit the holidays now.
Exactly.
And, because we also have trauma triggers on top of everything else. Like if your kids had complex backgrounds, then that may be a piece to it as well. And you talk about that as well. PTSD is part of neurodiversity as well. So I want to encourage people to go to the cshcollab.com/courses. There's a course on that. I have a course on reset, so escalations, if that's the thing that happens a lot for you. And then there's another one about IEPs if you have that coming up, which I do. Yeah. So I need to go watch my course again. And then people can connect with you on at Diversely Designed, and then also this account, Mama Shannon. Yes. And you share a lot of great tips and stories and all sorts of things. And you're also a collaborator for the collaborative.
Yes. Yes. I love it. It's great. This is a great resource for everyone. I'm excited to be part of it.
Yes. And the great thing is that these things are all on demand. So even if it's midnight and you're in your closet crying, you can still watch 15 minutes of a course that helps you with these parenting skills. So
that's very helpful.
I don't know, like we just came up with that idea, like as if we've been there.
I wonder, yes, because I think, exactly. We've been there. We get it completely.
Sometimes.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. This will post on my profile and I'll share it with you so you can do the same. And hopefully people will come to you and get some help for the holidays.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye.